Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome, everyone. Today's explainer takes us through a profoundly personal audio journal. It was recorded by someone standing right on the precipice of a massive life change. The entry is actually dated July 9th, 2026. And what makes this so incredibly captivating is that it isn't just a log of what the narrator did that day. No, it's a vivid, real-time documentation of a massive internal paradigm shift. We're going to map out exactly how this person processes the end of a long career and the sudden vast beginning of a highly structured spiritual awakening.
So think about this for a second. When all your life's obligations are finally complete, where do you go next? It's a question almost all of us will face eventually, right? When the final boxes are checked, the last forms are signed, where to? For a lot of folks, the answer is a cruise, maybe lowering your golf handicap, or honestly just sleeping in. But for the narrator of our journal today, the answer is entirely different. They don't look outward, they look inward. They embark on this radical, highly intentional journey into their own consciousness. And as you'll see, this isn't just some casual retreat. It's a rigorous expedition into the self.
Section 1. The 4 a.m. Epiphany. Let's look at the exact moment this profound realization really began to take root.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this transformation, we have to look at the narrator's immediate timeline. The source material outlines this beautiful three-step bridge from the past to the future. Just yesterday, they were totally grounded in the deeply administrative world of finalizing their university exit procedures. Then comes today, specifically just after 4 a.m., where they wake up, not with anxiety, but with a sudden crystal-clear epiphany. And this immediately sets the stage for their future, which is a commitment to high-energy, dynamic meditation. I mean, the juxtaposition here is just striking, moving directly from bureaucratic paperwork to spiritual liberation in a matter of literally hours. The journal notes just how visceral this was. Quote, "I woke up around 4 a.m. Suddenly, there was a feeling that a completely new self had begun." End quote. They note that this wholly new version of themselves was unfolding right in that very moment. It wasn't some gradual transition. It was a sudden, undeniable onset of a totally new life chapter. Waking up at 4 a.m. is often associated with the quietest, most introspective part of the night, and here it acts as the exact birthplace of the narrator's new identity. Section 2, leaving the university behind. Now, let's explore the real-world catalyst that actually made this spiritual awakening possible, the reality of retirement. See, this spiritual journey we're analyzing, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is directly tethered to a major real-world event: retirement. The narrator explicitly mentions that the day prior, they had been finalizing their departure and clearing out from the National Taipei University of Education. Getting these final administrative procedures and clearance steps out of the way was absolutely crucial. Think about that universal feeling of relief when you submit a massive final exam or sign the last piece of paperwork on a mortgage. By clearing these final bureaucratic hurdles at the university, the narrator cleared the ultimate mental space needed for this massive shift. There were virtually no worries left behind. And this brilliantly illustrates the core transition at the heart of the journal. On one side, we have the old life, defined by structured bureaucracy, final clearance procedures, and decades of external obligations. On the other side, the new life, characterized by an abundance of time, mental space, and the accumulated resources necessary to simply pursue joy. The narrator explicitly states that having accumulated enough resources, they can now start doing what makes them happy. They've essentially purchased their own freedom, trading the rigid structure of their career for this vast, open-ended frontier. Section 3, Tools for Inner Transformation. Let's introduce the specific, practical steps the narrator plans to take to actually navigate this newfound freedom. Because let's face it, freedom can be incredibly overwhelming without a map. According to the audio journal, the narrator has chosen a very specific guide for this journey. They state their intention to follow the path of the Indian master Osho. What's particularly noteworthy here is their clear intention to begin deliberate, active training. They don't look at this as a passive relaxation period, but as a rigorous inner workout. They're stepping out of an academic institution and immediately enrolling in an intensive internal academy. And the journal entry gets highly specific about the methods they'll use. They explicitly list these 3 activities as their starting point: gibberish meditation, breath meditation, and bodywork. Now, if you were expecting quiet, cross-legged silence, well, think again. These are dynamic, high-energy processes. The goal of these specific techniques is to build intense energy, deliberately shaking up the physical and mental state to force a shift in perspective. Based on the narrator's own understanding, and honestly, their sheer excitement in the recording, we can define this dynamic meditation as a tool for radical alteration. They note that these high energy activities are designed to take them in the direction they want to go, specifically to expand their inner space and completely change their awareness of the world. It's an active demolition of old perceptions. By engaging the body and the breath so intensely, they intend to blast open new, wider spaces within their own consciousness. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scope of this ambition. Just look at these targets. It can increase my understanding of subjectivity, the inner self, divinity, and existence. The narrator notes that just thinking about exploring these concepts makes them incredibly happy. They're taking profound, heavy, existential concepts and approaching them with this fresh, joyful anticipation. This isn't an academic exercise for them anymore. It's a deeply personal, lived experience just waiting to be unlocked through their new daily practices. Section 4. The Between States of Consciousness. Let's shift focus to some highly unusual physical and mental sensations they're already experiencing. Even at this super early stage in their retirement, the narrator's heightened introspection is yielding fascinating observations. They describe dwelling in this liminal space, the state right between waking and dreaming. The journal notes that this half-awake state is confusing and blurry, yet it produces a deeply special feeling. Think of that woozy, weightless feeling you get right after you hit the snooze button, where reality hasn't quite locked in yet. Well, this is the fertile ground where their new self-awareness is being cultivated. Within this between state, they note a remarkable duality. They contrast moments of bodily awareness, feeling solidly anchored and firmly grounded in your physical form, with moments of a completely formless state, a state with absolutely no bodily awareness, unfolding into a deeply open, endless expansion. And it's precisely this absence of physical boundaries that allows for what they describe as an infinite, endless expansion into a very deep, very new state of being. Without the limits of the physical body, their inner space becomes totally boundless. This endless expansion brings us to a crucial concept in the source material: divinity. But it is vital to understand exactly how the narrator uses this term. They aren't describing an external force or some deity in the sky. Instead, they describe divinity as a boundless, wide inner space of existence. It's an internal destination. It is a vast, uncharted territory within themselves that they can purposefully walk towards and recognize. Divinity, in this context, is the ultimate expression of the self once all those other boundaries have finally fallen away. Section 5. Sailing Beyond Personal Frameworks. Let's bring this narrative to its thematic climax, focusing on the ultimate goal of this deeply personal inner journey. Of all the things this person could do with their hard-earned retirement, they state their priority with absolute, undeniable clarity. Quote, walking towards myself, towards existence, recognizing that boundless inner divinity. End quote. The journal marks this as the absolute first and most important thing they must do. It's just a powerful reorientation of life's purpose. The career is over, the university is completely behind them, and the single most pressing obligation they have left is this profound, uncompromising commitment to deep self-discovery. So the crucial point is captured perfectly right here. Using Osho's meditation to break my own frameworks and sail to a further place. The narrator recognizes that their decades of working life have built mental frameworks, right? Habits, constraints, highly structured ways of thinking. And their ultimate desire is to use their new practices to literally shatter their old personal limitations. They want to completely dismantle the structure of who they were so they can truly set sail into the unknown expanses of who they are becoming. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen how the narrator traded a lifetime of institutional structure for a literal blank canvas of spiritual exploration. And honestly, it forces us to ask ourselves, when all physical boundaries disappear and your old personal frameworks are finally broken, how far can you sail into your own inner space? It's a powerful reminder that the absolute greatest frontiers left to explore aren't always found on a map, but right inside ourselves. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you on the next journey.